digits 988 can save a life.
Alrighty, welcome on into the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. Charlie Turner, Chris DiCarlo, John Restino, all here with you. Gentlemen, we are here March 25th of 2023. We are officially in the spring season, so we're starting to thaw out a little bit. But I'll tell you where it's always winter, and that's north of the border, where our neighbors are just north. And we have a very, very special guest with us today that we're very excited to be talking some old school wrestling about and some current things as well. Chris, why don't you go ahead and give this gentleman the proper Falls Count Anywhere introduction?
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are excited and we are very honored and privileged to have this gentleman join us today. He is also a former NWA Central States Tag Team Champion, a former AWA Southern Champion, a former Mid-American Champion, a former Southeastern Champion, a former four-time Canadian International Tag Team Champion with the Montreal Territory. Of course, we know a former WWF Intercontinental Champion, a former three-time WWF Tag Team Champion. He has been with the, of course, his famous brother too and family, the fabulous Rougeau brothers, the Mountie, the Quebecers. He is Mr. Jacques Rougeau. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Wow, what an introduction here. Jesus, it's almost like a Hall of Fame introduction there.
And you're a legend in our eyes.
Absolutely.
Right. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, sir. Thank you so much for joining us, man. It's such an honor for us to talk to somebody. You know, we grew up in the golden era that you were a huge part of. And, you know, as the Mountie, as the Rougeau brothers, as the Quebecers, man, we're excited to be able to talk to you about some old school wrestling today.
It's fun. It was fun to hear the introduction, remembering Southeastern wrestling, Mid-South wrestling, all the territories I used to do when I was young. And we're talking 1977, 78, 79, in the early 80s. It's a nice souvenir to hear that. Thank you very much, guys.
Well, Absolutely. No problem. Actually, real quick, before we jump in, Charlie, I wanted to say, Mr. Rougeau, I do have all that footage of you. I was trying to get some clips ready, but I've had some personal issues, so I'm sorry I don't have those clips. But if you want them, I got them.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Yeah, Chris is he's got an endless vault of wrestling DVDs and wrestling footage that even Vince McMahon might not even have. So, you
probably got the one with the boombox there in Memphis, Tennessee, there with the Dirty Laundry, the music, and all that good stuff. But anyway,
I love the Southeastern and the Georgia and Florida.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, Georgia was amazing. Yeah.
Well, you know, Jacques Rougeau, we thank you, man. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we want to get into your career, of course, and talk some old school wrestling, but. As far as what's going on with you in 2023, you got some things cooking. You have a wrestling academy and some other things going on. We definitely want to get into that a little bit as well. I guess we want to start with the wrestling academy that you do. Can you tell us a little bit more, give us more information about that?
Yeah, it's just amazing. Eventually you'll be able to get the website at the bottom of the screen for people to go and check this out. This is absolutely amazing for 2023. I started that last year. And with my girlfriend, and I've always had wrestling as a passion in my life, and so I put together a contest which I copied from a singing contest that originated in Montreal about maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It was called Star Academy, which was like they were getting videos from singers across Quebec where they wanted to become pros and superstars. And so they made a contest, a reality show where week after week they go on TV and they get eliminated. And the winner would end up singing with Celine Dion at the Bell Center, at the Forum at the time,
Cool.
So that was the grand prize. So as the COVID approached and everything, then we were all restrained at home. I started doing podcasts, and I was getting all kinds of guests in my podcast, from wrestlers to entertainers to all everywhere. And I had this girl, this singer, that won the contest of Star Academy, and she was telling us all how it was fun for her with the reality show, people voting and stuff like that. And after the show with her, after the podcast, I looked at my girlfriend. I said, wow, wouldn't it be fun to do something like that with wrestling? So we did a wrestling academy, and so I started sending some demands of in all the small territories across Canada, like, hey, the good workers there, if you want, send in a video clip for 30 seconds where you talk 15 seconds and you show me the highlights of your best moves for 15 seconds. And we're going to make a competition where we're going to get sponsors. They're going to pay from Vancouver all the way to Prince Edward Island. And we're going to go ahead and get some sponsors to pay for the airfares and the hotels in Montreal. And we're going to make a reality show where people are voting to see who they want to keep and who they want to let go. And we started that last year, where we end up with 41 people that subscribed, 41 wrestlers, male and female. And there was like 21 from Quebec and 19 from Canada. It's like there's a lot of people that didn't believe in the project, and because it was brand new. And of course, the prices were big too. So almost all the wrestlers couldn't believe that something like that could happen. But eventually, we built and got a lot of credibility last year that came, because the 4 winners received the $5,000 each, which they were winning. Plus, they went to the Nightmare Factory in Atlanta, Georgia, for 3 months for free training with QT Marshall, Billy Gunn, and Cody Rhodes. And that happened also. And they also made historically, the first debut of AEW in Canada, in Toronto. They were on Dynamite and Rampage. My winners were on that show. The first match ever from AEW is Jeremy Prophet and his girlfriend Jessica Black, who were the winners from Quebec last year. There was 4 winners, 2 from Quebec and one from Ontario, Matt Black. And there was another guy, Chris Dillon, from the Maritimes. And they all went. So everybody this year followed the competition from close and far, from hearsay, and just and then they realized that all the prizes that they were supposed to get, they got it. So this year we send another subscription to all the territories in Canada, and instead of having, like, it's so funny, like 21 in Quebec and 19 in Canada, we had 71 inscriptions from Canada, like, from coming from all over, but all the best talent, because this year, which is amazing, it's that there's only 3 winners instead of 4, but they're going to win $10,000 each. So wow. The 3 winners win $10,000, plus they get the 3 months at the Nightmare Factory. With Cody Rhodes, who won the Royal Rumble not long ago and is going to be main event in WrestleMania this year. So he's going to be their teacher for 3 months. And then QT Marshall and Billy Gunn with AEW. So this competition has become so surreal, because, being a professional wrestler, and there was 2 criteria when I was young that my father used to tell me. If you want to make it in this business, there's 2 things you need to have: knowing the right people and being at the right place at the right time. And this competition is giving that to them. It's giving them an opportunity to spend 3 months at the Nightmare Factory I'm not giving them any working papers or working visas or nothing like that. I'm just giving them a foot in the door to be there at the Nightmare Factory. And now you look at the WWE and the AEW that are taking a look at my talent, the winners of Wrestling Academy, just for 3 months. And what's amazing about all this is, like, if you go spend 3 months at the Nightmare Factory with these guys, the first day you're there and the first week you're there is how you doing, Mr. Rhodes? How you doing, Mr. Marshall? But when you've been there a month, it's a little tap on the shoulder. Hey, QT, how's it going? Hey, and hey, yeah. Cody. And then after 2 months, it's, hey, buddy, how about having barbecue and this and that? So next thing so that's what my father was telling me when I was young, is knowing the right people and being at the right place at the right time. And this competition is totally on fire because of how big this is getting. I've had so many inscriptions from everywhere, but this is only Canadian content that I'm announcing you right now, that probably next year it's going to be Mexico, Canada, and United States. Nice. This competition. So we're going North America next year. And the sponsors that we had last year, they doubled this year. and so this is really a great opportunity for Canadian wrestlers.
That's awesome. So it sounds like it's a growing thing. It's just getting off the ground, but it's growing pretty quick, which is awesome.
And one thing that's really fun about this competition too is like last year when we had the quarterfinals and then the semifinals and the finals. When just came the finals, we had QT Marshall in Atlanta, Georgia, in front of a screen like this, and we were at the Club Soda in Montreal where it was happening. This events, all the events were happening at the Club Soda, but on the giant screen, QT Marshall was there to choose the winners. From sitting in his home and the last four winners. And when we finished the competition last year, QT Marshall, I called him the next day. I was so excited about the competition. And so I asked him, I said, QT, I said, did you like this thing we did together, like, this competition? He said, are we doing it again next year? And then so it started like that. So from that point we talked, and he says, but next year, he says, I want to have a few changes. He says, I want to be there at the beginning when we choose the participants in the fall. I want to be there. I want to be there on the giant screen at the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals. Not only the finals. So we became his little pet project for him. And
awesome.
and now he gave us a beautiful gift again just a couple of months ago, where he said that when it comes down, like the quarterfinals are the 7th of May, it's starting, and the 4th of June. That's the quarterfinals, and then July we don't have anything. And August is the best of the May against the best of June, which is the semifinals. And there's going to be 20 wrestlers left in the semifinals, but he's going to have to eliminate 10. Ooh. And what he gave us as a bonus, he said, Jacques, he says, what we're going to do is the 10 out of the 10 that we eliminate in August, he says, I'm going to choose one. And at the night of the finals in September, I'm going to wrestle him in Montreal.
Oh,
so,
nice.
so QT's going to wrestle one of the guys that was eliminated in the semifinals. So, it's a dream come true for a lot of people, this project.
That's fantastic. And as far as the academy itself, is it strictly wrestling and learning the basics, or is there also like microphone work and promo work?
Absolutely. They got to do a promo on the way out, and it's so funny because when I put all the talent on Zoom, when we put the matches together and stuff, I kind of give them a hand and help them to coordinate all this. We flip a coin to see who's going to win the match and who's going to lose the match, and we're doing it like you guys are there, and we just flip a coin because it has no importance who wins and who loses, because the criterias are not that. It's the ability in the ring. It's the presentation of your gear. How do you look? You're marketable. Your interviews. It's the total package that is. And to win or to lose that match has nothing to do with continuing in the contest or not. So we have a lot of fun putting these matches together. I make sure that it's funny because I make sure that the guy who flips the coin, he let's say one of the guys win. Well, we tell the other guy, don't worry, because I make sure that the other guy that's doing the job, that he gets about 60% of the match, where he looks good. So because there's a lot of impact at the end when you win the match, but if for 60% of the match, the other guy looks good, then it kind of evens it out, and QT's a professional, so he doesn't look at who's get the hand raised or not. It's just like the ability in the ring, the talent, the working the crowd, working the cameras. He surprised me so much when I was at the Nightmare Factory last fall, when we chose the participants for this year, because at one point there was one guy, I thought he was awesome. And, and I knew he was going to pick him. Yes. And then he says, no, we're not taking him. And then I looked at QT and I said, we're not taking him? He says, no, we're not taking him. He says, he's dressed with jeans. He says, and I learned a lot about you. So what I did is we have a group chat where all the participants are on my group now, So I wrote to all the group. I said, guys, listen up. Better get some gear, because you better not wear some jeans in the ring, because, so this is a great competition. Made a lot of friends. A lot of the talent are coming from Ontario, by the way. Yeah,
that's awesome. Now, do you ever get involved in like the full Mountie gear and go in there and kick some ass or what? Or you just
I just do Comic-Cons like that. I go around. I still go around the planet doing Comic-Cons, and I'm having fun and in my gear like that. But I suggest people, if they want to follow this competition, to go on wrestling-academy.ca. And in French, the line is lutteacademy.ca. And just you could go see last year's competition. But I want to right away tell you the truth about something. It was our first year. It was like an amateur production. So if you go there, don't expect to see the production of WWE. You know, and I'm the commentator with a couple of other guys, and I'm horrible. I'm doing more whoas and yay and then I'm saying the moves, because the moves have changed so much. But we're having fun. And you'll feel that in my commentaries that I'm having fun. But most importantly, apart from the production going to be much better this year, hopefully, the content is awesome. The matches are awesome. So if you guys want to go see the matches, you can go see on the website. Last year's competition, all the way to the finals, where QT eliminated at the last finals and crowned the 4 winners. It's very exciting. A lot of the talent last year, you'd be surprised. A lot of the talent started crying, you know, because you know, there is a difference between winning $5,000 and going 3 months at the Nightmare Factory, trained by 3 of the best wrestlers in the business today, and going home. You know, so and you're right there in front of the giant screen, and QT's saying, well, you know, Jessica, I liked your work, I like that. But Amy Crimson, I like that a lot better of you, and this and that. But I'm gonna go with Jessica. You know, and then you can see Jessica fall to her knees, like, oh my God, like, you know. And so it's an amazing contest. It's an amazing project. So I really invite you all to go and check Wrestling-Academy. That's the end. Follow us starting this year on the 7th of May. It's gonna be just awesome. And thank you guys for giving me the time to talk about this.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll be promoting it on our page as well. Absolutely. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, actually, John, we have 2 videos from Mr. Rougeau about that. We want to roll right now with him.
Yes, 1 second. Let me get to him.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Alexandre Guilbeault, oui, santé. Julien Boursier, du band Atomic Train. Et voici Lutte Académie 2023, notre chanson Playground, Playground.
Jacques Rougeau's Wrestling Academy 2023. It's the biggest pro wrestling competition in the world, and it's coming very soon. It all starts with the first part of quarterfinals on May 7th at Montreal's Club Soda. Big prizes are on the line. At the end of it all, 1 woman and 2 men will each win $10,000 plus a 3-month scholarship at the prestigious wrestling school, the Nightmare Factory, where they'll be trained by top quality coaches QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes, and Billy Gunn. The whole world is talking about Wrestling Academy and a growing number of podcasts. They just can't believe the high-level competition that we have. We'll start it with a colossal collision of giants. We've got at 6'10", 300 pounds, Giant Orion.
Jesse V, when you finally get in the ring with me, that's when you're going to realize that that dream that you've been chasing for so long has become a nightmare.
He's facing 6'4", 275-pounder, Clutch Jesse V.
Giant Orion, don't underestimate what a man will do for $10,000. Because I don't care how tall you are, because when I pick you up and I slam you back down on that mat, you're only going to be looking up at me, Clutch Jesse V.
This bout alone is worth the price of admission. But wait, there's more. 5 other explosive matches are on the card. The women's division will be colorful and action-packed as Alicia Luciferia faces Amy Crimson. We've got a 6-man tag team match that will shake the ring as Salsa King John Gonzalez teams up with KO Shock and Jefferson James to face the King, Brandon Bright, Eli Surge, and Homer Stevie Shalom. You want more action? We've got more. The Battle of the West will be fought between Relentless Riley Rhodes and Zoe Sander. Another one people are looking forward to is the tag team action between Chad Daniel and Maverick Wheeler against Genesis Johnny North and Magnum McLaren with Big Daddy Diamond in their corner. That's gonna be crazy. And I have another one for you. The baddest bond in the world, Kyle Zachary, will face the King and Giant, Gabriel Savage, with manager Michel Claude in his corner. who will go to the second round and who will go home. During the semifinals in August, Judy Marshall will wrestle for the first time in Montreal against one of the eliminated contestants. If we can't do that, it's because we have champion sponsors. Thanks, guys. It's the most coveted ticket in May. Purchase yours through the Club Soda website. For more details, please check out our website, Jacques Rougeau's Wrestling Academy 2023. It all starts on May 7th. You just cannot miss this.
Wow, very, very cool stuff there, man. Great to see
Wow, it's amazing. I'm so excited here. My palms of my hands are sweating now.
Got me fired up. Yeah, absolutely, man. Those guys, and I'll tell you, Giant Orion, holy cow, he's a big dude. That's going to be a heck of a match, both of those guys. What I wanted to ask you about, too, that belt that Riley Rose was wearing there. It looked almost like a female version of the big gold. It was kind of cool looking.
Amazing, the talent, and it's the best talent from across Canada, the best workers that we have in Canada that are all coming together. And what's exciting about this project is a lot of people told me like, oh, of course, Jacques, you're going to put one great worker against one less great worker to make sure that at the end, all the good ones they meet. But that's not what I did. I took the best out of the best. And it's like Jesse V, who's from Ontario, and then Brian the Giant Orion. These two are favorites to win the competition, and they're going right head to head to the quarterfinals. So it's like, hey, after the 7th of May, one of them is going home, and it's like so. And I got all these matches. Zoe Zager against Triple R there, Riley Rose. Those are two great potential winning women that are going, they got to head on face to face in the quarterfinals. So it's not like I'm putting the best ones against the less ones to make it really exciting at the end. I'm making it exciting right off the bat. And it's like, so it's a very, very, I'm very, very excited about all this.
And we have a video from the Nature Boy Ric Flair for Mr. Rougeau too, John.
Woo! Hello, Canadian wrestlers, male and female. It's the Nature Boy, the original Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, 16-time world champion. Wishing all of you great luck at Jacques Rougeau's Wrestling Academy, the greatest wrestling academy ever known to the great country of Canada. $10,000 in prizes, man. You guys work hard. Party hard, train hard, live hard, and live like the role model Jacques Rougeau himself. God bless you. Stay strong. Make 2023 the greatest year of Jacques Rougeau's Wrestling Academy. It's the Nature Boy saying, woo! Happy New Year. Jacques, I love you, my brother. Stay strong. Woo!
That's awesome. Nobody cuts a promo like the Nature Boy. Huh? That is awesome.
And you talk about credibility. It gives this competition. And this video was seen on YouTube around the world. So so what's amazing about this project? It's like Canadian made, and it's seen around the world. And it's the first time so there's going to be copycats, of course, eventually. But we were the first to do that. And so I'm very proud, and so we should, as Canadians, we should be very proud of this competition.
We're going to send Chris to your wrestling academy there and get him an opponent, and then see if we can break him in. A couple, camel clutches, some Boston crabs,
No. Well, I could properly introduce somebody though, right, Mr.
There you go. Yeah.
No, yeah, you sure do. I'll try to get a midget for you.
Yeah, there you go.
I got wrong. Want to hear Hulk Hogan?
No, I was going to say what we're going to do here, guys. Let's do a check-in with our sponsors. We got to do a quick commercial break here, Mr. Rougeau. And then we want to come back. We want to talk a little bit about more of your career. And then we got a special video from the Hulkster as well talking about your career, which we want to play as well. So we're going to do that quick sponsor break, and we'll be back in like a minute and a half, 2 minutes here.
Sounds good.
Digits 988 can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
right, guys, welcome on back to the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. We are here with one of the legends from the golden era of the World Wrestling Federation. Remember that? The WWF back in the day. One half of the Rougeau brothers, one half of the Quebecers. He is the Mountie, Mr. Jacques Rougeau. And we're just getting started here, Mr. Rougeau. I'm just talking about your career a little bit. From what I remember you is back with the Rougeau brothers, and of course, as your
Fabulous.
The fabulous Rougeau brothers, and of course your evolution to the Mountie and the Quebecers. Man, so many questions for you. I guess first off, well, Robin is one of our other co-hosts. She's off into the background. I know she has a question that she had about WrestleMania 3, I believe, right, Robin? If you're ready, and I don't mean to put you on the spot there, but
no, I'm ready.
All right.
Thanks for taking my question, Mr. Rougeau. I was just wondering what it was like to be part of such a monumental event, be it the Pontiac Silverdome with all those people at the time for WrestleMania 3. I know you had a match, the Fabulous Rougeau brothers against Greg Valentine and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And I was just wondering what that environment was like and what it was like to be a part of that.
Well, actually, we weren't the Fabulous Rougeau brothers yet. We were the Rougeau brothers. But it was absolutely amazing. It was hard to describe because it was surreal. It was like 93,000 people. It was the biggest indoor event ever put together. It was like going to the ring with a golf cart, because it was so far away. It was like trying to tie my boots in the dressing room and couldn't put my lace through the holes of my boots because my foot was going like this. My throat was dry. It was like, and I wasn't new in the business, but I was like a guy that was green. I was so nervous, and it was like it was amazing. It was very nerve-wracking to have that match, but it was like you said, the Hulkster with the Andre the Giant. What an amazing! I think that event till today is like the maker of the business. How big it became, the same as Hulkamania. There's some things that marked the business, that created a new era, as something that was, and I'm so proud to have been part of that. It was just amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. That WrestleMania 3. I mean, that when you look back at it, and again, this was 1987, and wrestling had not seen a crowd. I mean, I know they had attempted crowds that big at like Shea Stadium and whatnot, and other events in the territories. But to see that come to fruition at WrestleMania 3 as a kid, I truly was scared of Andre the Giant. I didn't know if he was going to kill Hulk Hogan that night or what. And the legend has it, or from what Hulk Hogan is told, was he really didn't know what the finish of that match was going to be until he got in the ring with Andre, and Andre kind of told him what was going to happen. He was a little bit nervous himself.
Andre was such a phenomenon. And but the funniest thing is, people make they have ideas of people, but Andre was a very close friend of mine. Andre spoke French, and he worked for my dad and my uncle in the Montreal territory. And he was also, I used to sit down with him at least 2 hours a day, and we used to play cribbage. I don't know if you know the game of crib. And 15-2, 15-4, 15-6. It's like a board with some cards. And anyway, the older people know how to play cribbage. And but not a lot of people knew how to play that game. There was Arnold Skolin, there was Tito Santana, there was myself, and Andre. So every time we traveled and every time we went overseas, it was so funny just to think about that. We'd fly like 4, 5, 6 hours and 8 hours in the airports and flying overseas and stuff. And when the plane would take off, we were in economy, of course, but Andre was always sitting in first class, and they would never sell the seat beside him because he was so big. Right. And then so as soon as the plane would take off, the flight attendant would come in the back, and she'd look around, not knowing who I was, say, Jacques Rougeau, and I'd lift my hand up like this. He'd say, come with me. And then so I'd go and sit in the front first class to play cribbage with Andre because so that was amazing. But yeah, what an impressive kind of guy.
Yeah, and some of the drinking stories from Andre the Giant. We've heard a few from our past guests that he just there was no keeping up with him.
No way, Jose. I'll tell you, it's but and plus other things like I think he was also the champion of excuse my language, but farts.
Yes.
But, he'll tell you what. And the funniest thing is, he was so proud of him. He'd let one go off there, and I swear to God that the whole 3-4 rows in front and behind, it'd be like going shit, and and he'd go ho 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 ho. Yeah. So he was funny, but I loved him, and he liked me a lot, so that was fun.
I know, real quick, Charlie. I know we're all biting.
No, jump in, man. Go ahead.
We're all biting at the tongue here with Mr. Rougeau. But another one we always like to hear about, other than Andre, right, Charlie, is you're with Iron Sheik, the Iron Sheik, and stories, and we do Sheik tweets here too with him.
Do you? I can't believe that. I can't believe that jabroni. Yes, I can. And he was. But he was a classic, and it's so funny because he liked me a lot too, and it was like when the picture I get when you say the Iron Sheik is the only picture that comes to mind is like he sometimes you don't bite your tongue before you say things, like you say what you think,
No filter.
So I'm going to Manchester, England, maybe I'd say maybe 1 year after my incident with the British Bulldog, my that big fight I had with him backstage and stuff, and so I'm going into his hometown, and I'm afraid, completely afraid, because I'm afraid of retribution, from him or from friends or from, and so I come into this Comic-Con, to go sign autographs. I'm coming very humbly in, just doing my little thing, and as soon as I walk in like the crowd, he goes, "I can't believe it. I can't believe it, Rougeau. You come here in the Dynamite Kids home, and you're my hero. You're my hero." And I'm going like, "Oh, please shut up. Like, please don't say that name." Because but that's what I have in mind when you say Iron Sheik. But he loved me. He really, yeah. I love the guy. I always did.
And one of the things we find funny, because again, as Chris mentioned, we do like Sheik tweets every week, and we'll pull like 3 or 4 tweets from the Sheik's social media feed there on Twitter, and we'll have some good laughs because he's always talking about current events and whatnot. He just turned 81 as well, and happy birthday to the Sheik. But the one thing we find funny, he doesn't go more than a week without bashing the Hulkster. He just loves to say that he's the man. Hulkamania is because of the Sheik. Do you think that's a work with the Sheik, or do you think he really sincerely is giving it to Hogan all these years later?
I don't know. What he doesn't like Hogan? Is that the thing?
He hates Hogan. He's always calling him a Hollywood jabroni and all this stuff.
Really? But he calls everybody a jabroni. So,
it makes you wonder.
But I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I think he's still mad since 1984, I take it.
1984. Yeah, he's been holding a grudge for about 40 years. Yeah.
Really? Well, I'll tell you, he's such a character, the Sheik. And it's sometimes when you talk with him, it's been a while. I wish I'd see him again. It's been a long time. But anyway, sometimes when you talk to him, you'd always wonder, is he serious what he's saying, or is this a work? Like, and so I don't know, to be honest with you, but I'll tell you what, there's nobody on this planet that is allowed not to have respect for Hulk.
Yeah.
That's in the business. I remember coming in the dressing rooms in the 80s, and Raymond and I, and even when I was by myself, I'd come in the dressing room, and the first thing I'd look, is because they were having like three shows every night, like at different places. You could be in Montreal, you could be in Paris, you could be in London, and the 3 WWF crews. There was the ABC crew, and they were going around 25 days a month. We were on the road, and the first thing I'd do is I'd come in the dressing room to see the main event, to see if Hulk was on the card, because if Hulk was on the card, I knew my paycheck was gonna be good, and I knew that, and it was a class, it was a class apart, from so I have nothing but respect for the Hulkster, and I think everybody knows that today.
Oh, absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to ask you about too, and I caught this, and I apologize, I don't remember the podcast you told the story on, but I'd love for you to tell it on our podcast. You were doing a vignette as the Mountie. And if I have this correct, there was an American that came up to you and asked you for directions, and then the whole thing just went chaotic.
So, hey, you guys, are you based in Niagara Falls out of U.S. or Canada?
U.S., yeah. You're in the US.
Okay, that's why you don't like my Canadian tournament. I see now. Now I understand. Okay. So I was talking about Canada before, and I didn't see so many expressions, like sincere expressions on your face. I was saying these guys are funny Canadians, Niagara Falls, but no,
Close,
you're from the
pretty close.
States.
Yeah.
You guys are you're the patriotic kind. Yeah. I understand.
We're
No,
practicing.
we totally respected and love pro wrestling and you, sir. So it doesn't matter where we're from. But yeah, look at John. He's been a Toronto Maple Leaf fan since the 70s.
So here's a lot of rivalries with Detroit, I think. Toronto, Detroit. But anyway, long story short, let me get back to my horse here. And then so I'm sitting on my horse in a park in Montebello, Quebec. It's a little town, and we're shooting these vignettes to introduce the character of the Mountie before we get on the crew. And so they shoot that for about 5 weeks, and I'm sitting on my horse, and there's this guy that pulls up beside me. There's two Americans, and they're the guy with his girlfriend, and I did two of them. I'll tell you the one I like the most. So I got this guy here with his girlfriend, and he pulls up beside me, and he puts his window down, and then he looks up to me on my horse, and he says, "Excuse me, officer." He says, "Excuse me, officer." He said, and I look down to him, and I say, "I'm not an officer, I'm the Mountie." So he looks at his girlfriend in the car like, holy shit. So then he looks back up to me, says, "Excuse me, Mr. Mountie." He says, "Can you wait?" He says, "Can you tell me how to get back to the United States?" He says, "We're lost." And so I look at him from my horse, my arrogant face, and slowly I get off my horse, and I get beside his car, and I say, "Come here." So then he looks at his girlfriend like, "Should I get out?" And then his girlfriend says, "Come on, chicken, get out." So he gets out of the car, and he follows me to the front of my horse. And when I bring him at the front of my horse, I take the front of the jaw of my horse like this, and I put it up in the air, and I say, "You see this part of my horse? It always points to Canada. Now come here." So I bring him in the back of my horse, and I lift the tail up, and you could see the donut of the horse there. I lift the tail up, and then I say, "You see this part of my horse? It always points to the United States." But I wasn't laughing, and it was so funny.
I remember it like yesterday.
But you guys are really, take everything so seriously, But I remember going to the Gardens and to the Philadelphia and the Nassau Coliseum, and they were throwing rocks at me, when I was coming in, they can't take a joke, but anyway.
That's fantastic. I love that story, man. I wanted to hear that story again because it's so great.
You should see it. It's funny to hear it, but you should see it.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Yes.
It's so funny, and what a character the Mountie, I'll tell you. And it got to a point that my character was so hot that the real Mounties they sent an injunction to the WWF, and they pulled my character off TV. I wasn't allowed to wrestle on TV anymore. And so that's what happened after my match with Big Boss Man and stuff like that, where my character disappeared real fast because when they were doing the TV tapings in the States and everywhere, we'd spend 2 days doing TV tapings every month for the shows that were sent to Japan, to Europe, everywhere around the world. Right. But they couldn't put me on TV because they were sending it to Canada also. So they were putting me less and less. So my character just I could only go without the coat, or I could go with they were calling me Jacques Rougeau in Canada, and the gimmick just died off, real fast. But that was a good thing. It was a bad thing, but a good thing, because that proved I was doing my job right,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was upsetting some people.
Right.
That's phenomenal. And former Intercontinental Champion, as Chris mentioned at the top there. Wanted to ask your opinion real quick on the Intercontinental title. The belt that you held, John, I think you have that picture there. If not, don't worry about it. The belt that you held is my favorite version of the Intercontinental title. Yeah, there it is there. And I think a lot of people would agree. Look at that. It's a beautiful belt. Have you seen the new one? And would you – I don't know. I'm in the camp of bring back the old belt. I love that old belt.
Well, to be honest with you guys, I'm going to shock you probably, all four of you, not with my stick, but with my words. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you that would you believe I haven't watched wrestling in 30 years?
Wow.
I never watched one show, not one now. So I don't know any of the talent of today. I don't know what's going on. I always kept going wrestling, but my own wrestling, my own territory, my own things. And so I have no idea, no clues of what's going on. But to be honest with you, the funniest thing about that belt is and someone told me at the last Comic-Con last week in Philadelphia that they actually brought it to my own knowledge, that because I always say for the last 30 years, I always said, everybody brings dolls with me with the belt, I only held it for 2 days. I was the shortest lived Intercontinental champion that ever existed, 2 days. Right. And everywhere I sign Comic-Cons around the world, they all have the belt, the Intercontinental belt on my dolls, on my pictures. So it's funny because I love that belt. I have it with me when I go to Comic-Cons. I bring it with me, and yes, people do love that belt. I always take my belts, the tag team championship belt and that belt, and I always put it on the fans when they come beside me. I take a picture. I put the belts on the shoulder, and I tell them as a joke, I said, "Here, put the belt on the shoulder for about 5 seconds. You'll be shorter champion than I was." But it's fun. Yeah, but that belt sure came a long way in 30-some years for a guy who held it for 2 days. It's like, it's amazing. Yeah, even the picture you just showed me again, that 2 years ago had the belt, So.
Absolutely. And it's so funny, because I didn't really realize it was that short of a reign until I was kind of going back over your career again, looking you up here. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize it was that short. And the funny thing is, and this was during the Attitude Era, I distinctly remember Chris Jericho. He was on the mic, and he was the current Intercontinental Champion at that point, and he was talking about Intercontinental Champions of the past, and he mentioned the Mountie. And
I know, and that was amazing. Yeah, I know, and it's funny about Chris Jericho because I like him a lot, because I like him more now because just last week, he sent me an invitation for his Rock and Wrestling. He does a cruise, the cruise ships.
Yes.
He does. So I'm going to be there on Christmas next year on his cruise ship, to go awesome. Sign autographs and stuff like that. So yeah, Chris Jericho always mentioned me here and there, in his career. So I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, someone sent me a video. I can't remember if it was like five years ago or something, of a guy called John Mosley or something, that he did a vignette or something. He did an interview where he came out with Bryanson, or what was the guy he was having a feud with, where he actually dressed up as the Mountie. I don't know if you guys ever seen that in the WWF. You never seen that?
Yeah.
He came out in an interview with dressed up as the Mountie, and he says, "Hey, why are you dressed up like that?" And then he finishes the little promo, like 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds a minute, and then he says, "Because the Mountie always gets his man." And I saw that someone said that to me. I said, "Wow, that's funny." 20 years later, they're still talking about the Mountie.
Such a fun gimmick. You had an action figure at one point, the old Hasbro action figure in the
jailhouse match.
Yeah, and of course the shock stick, the sound effects on WWF TV with the shock stick always.
But the jailhouse match with Big Boss Man, spending the night in jail, that was a classic. There's not one day that I'm not reminded of that when I go to a Comic-Con or something like that. It's like, how was the night in jail you spent there? And it's funny because 2 other things that people bring up a lot to me when they see me in Comic-Cons, is my theme musics, I'm the Mountie, I'm handsome, I'm brave. And then they bring up, we don't like heavy metal, we don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey, we're all American, all American boys. And those 2 theme songs, I swear to God, I hear so much about them. And it was funny because just last year, we had a reunion, me, Raymond, my brother, and Jimmy Hart in Albany, New York. And we actually sang the song together, all 3 of us, and they filmed it. Yeah. And it was so funny to do that with the little American flags and having fun. Just wishing everybody happy Thanksgiving Day on Memorial Day.
Love it. And you mentioned Jimmy Hart was your manager for a brief period of time there with the fabulous Rougeau brothers. Areas there, with the French Canadian suit there, beautiful, right? How was it with Jimmy Hart as your manager? What kind of character? It seems like that's just him, no matter what, right? There's no.
Let me tell you something. I could never acknowledge Jimmy Hart as much as he's worthy. To me, in my book, he has the best wrestling manager of all times, everybody included. I wrestled for 45 years, small territories to big territories. I've never met the guy so worthy, so competent. A guy that I'll give you an example. There's so many things I could say about him. Making our music, making Hulk's music, making everybody's music. Everybody coming to WWF, he was making the music. He was also a singer for the Gentrys in the 50s and the 60s, a group that was on the like a Soul Train, and then everywhere, in the Palmerists, he was everywhere. But business wise, always on time, always reliable, no alcohol, no drugs, he was just so perfect, always polite to the fans. He was like every time he'd get on an interview, every time, he was the only manager that I knew that would do that, the only one, and such a great thing for the wrestler that was with him, because he'd come on an interview and he'd be the only manager that wouldn't start an interview with saying, like, let me tell you something. I'm smart. I know what I'm going to do. It was never him.
Right.
It was always, let me tell you something about my man. Let me tell you about something about the Heart Foundation. Let me tell you something about. He never put the spotlight. He always made his talent that was with him bigger than life. And then more than that, he'd come to the shows. You'd see him show up one time, and then bing, he's got a new suit with all your flag, your trademark on his coats. There was not a best. He's a goat. He is the best of the managers. I was with him again in Philly last week. You should see the lines of people in front of him. It just never stops. It just never, from videos from the Beefcake and Valentine era to everything he's doing. All the tag team, the Nasty Boys were there, and then the Gentry records, the 33 records. It just never stops. People just coming in. Jimmy Hart, and he was the only one who would always never talk about himself.
Yeah, and he hasn't changed. I mean, to me, he looks the same. And when he just showed up on Raw 25 with the Hulkster, the 25th anniversary of Raw, he came out to start the show, and he was decked out with the suit with the Hogan all over it, and it was red and yellow, and just hasn't lost a step at all. I love Jimmy Hart. So yeah, great to hear your thoughts on him, because man, what a legend.
Mr. Rougeau, I want to ask you about working with, to me, the Sheep Herders, but I know the Bushwhackers, WrestleMania 5, 1989.
My God, they were so unorthodox.
Yeah.
They were nice guys. But the worst match you could see on the card when you come in the dressing room to see the fabulous Rougeau brothers against the Bushwhackers.
Uh-oh. It was like, right?
Well, the licking and because and we were at a time where Raymond and I, we were hard workers. We were guys that come in and win the crowd over by telling a story, by creating a nice climax at the end of the match. There were just build and build and build. You can't do that with the Bushwhackers. You just go in there and yay and whoa and just get licked and get farted on and get whatever, it's like it was just an armpit, the face there, and it was like it was what it was. But Luke Williams, I love the best. He was a friend of mine. I met him in Pensacola with Joe LeDuc when I was young, and such a nice guy, always there, friendly and always happy. And me and him are like this still today. He's in Clearwater now still, and when we meet once in a while, it's always so happy to see the big hug. And it's funny that but great guys. Just nothing compared to coming in the dressing room and seeing in the cards the Rougeaus against the Rockers, or the Rougeaus against the Heart Foundation, or the matches where I love to go, and we know that we go in 20-25 minutes in the ring, and then we'd have people in a standing ovation at the end, just going nuts when the baby faces would go over, right. and just it was an era where wrestling was fun.
100%. We grew up with it. We were little kids back then, and we loved every minute of it, and still do to this day. But as a kid during that golden era, there's something special about it. And one of the things too, definitely want to mention here is the WWE Hall of Fame, because we've talked about it on this show in the past that there's a lot of big names missing from that Hall of Fame that deserve to be in there. Yourself and brother definitely being included in that. Demolition is off the top of my head.
Rick Martel.
Rick Martel,
Cindy
Maria, Cyndi Lauper. The list can go on and on. I don't know what's wrong with that WWE.
To be honest with you, I had a big falling out with Vince McMahon many years ago, and we never made it back to speaking terms. And but I always send a message for the last years or so. People are always asking me, like, how come you guys are not in the Hall of Fame? Everybody you wrestled is there. Everybody, like the Bulldogs, the Hearts, Big Boss Man, everybody that I wrestled, Tito Santana, that I had single matches. And I all tell him, I said, I just wish that Vince or his crew that's with him would stop inducting people in the Hall of Fame for personal reasons. They should do it for professional reasons. And I cannot. It's funny because just someone last week I was doing a podcast and they told me, Jacques, why you should be in the Hall of Fame. I'll tell you why. Because I was growing up in Philly, and I used to remember that every time you guys would come to Philly, and the Hulkster was on the card. Well, Hulkster always wanted to go on before the intermission because he wanted to leave early or something. Like, he was never on the last match of the night. And always the last match of the night was you guys, against the Hearts, or you guys again. So they put us on 20,000 people, in front of 20,000 people at the end of an event, and they wanted us to bring them to their feet, and the last match, after they've seen Hogan, after they've seen everything during the card that night, and we'd still manage to do it. So I think that Vince, you should put your feelings aside. And you should really, out of respect for, and if you don't want me in there personally, then just put the Rougeau name, because we're 4 generations of wrestlers.
Absolutely.
My great uncle Eddie Ogier, my uncle Johnny Rougeau and Jacques Rougeau, iconic wrestlers. We're 3 brothers. My 3 sons were wrestling. We have like 75 years of wrestling, the Rougeau family, and it's unthinkable to think that the Von Erichs, the Grahams, the Fullers, the Welch, the families of wrestling that I know that are not in there, because and like I said, to have a great tomorrow, you must have today. Absolutely. And to have today, you must have yesterday. And it's so important that you before, when it's like becoming a wrestler, a lot of people say, I had a wrestling school for 20 years, my own wrestling school, and a lot of people who come to the wrestling, they wanted to move fast and learn fast, and say, hey, before you run, you gotta
walk.
No, before you walk, you gotta crawl.
You gotta crawl.
And, so when you come to my school, don't expect to start running the ropes. No, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to protect your opponent, how to fall, how to everything that builds. You can have the most beautiful house on a mountain, but if you don't have a good foundation under your house, 5 years later, it's all going to crumble. Yeah. So wrestling is like that. You cannot forget about the wrestlers who, I think of guys like Barry Horowitz and Steve Lombardi, guys that we used to wrestle. They used to wrestle and put the Hearts over, put everybody over, week after week, to make them superstars. But you know what? If you go watch a movie, if you don't have a great Joker, you don't have a great Batman.
Exactly.
If you don't have a big heel in a movie, you don't have a good babyface. And so those guys who made us, like Horowitz and Lombardi and Paul Roma and Jim Powers and all those guys that created us, they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, because they were there year after year after year. And if you guys really think about it, Barry Horowitz, and Steve Lombardi, and all, they had charisma. So if we turn the things around, and let's say we turn the things around and we take the Hearts Foundation and they become jobbers. And Horowitz and Lombardi, they keep being put over on TV. They keep winning. They keep having storylines around them, and they keep being attractions. Then they're in the Hall of Fame, and the Hearts are just jobbers. They're not. So for me, it takes 2 to tangle in there. You can't have a great match with a great worker and a guy who doesn't know how to work. It takes two great workers to make a great match.
That, you know, yeah, and you mentioned that it's right in our wheelhouse, because we, on our show weekly, we have a jobber of the week, right? And it's enhancement talent, if you will. And we do it to have a little bit of fun with their characters, of course, but we also throw them that respect that you're talking about, because, like you said, it takes two to tango. And without those guys, the Saturday morning shows where you're putting over the marquee names, it doesn't happen without those guys. Those guys are like doing the grunt work, so to speak.
They should be recognized.
Ton of respect for those guys, yeah.
So bottom line, you know, after being in the business 45 years, after being world tag team champions in WWF 4 times, after being intercontinental champion, after being the only Canadian to beat Hulk Hogan with a clean pin, after all the things that I've accomplished, and taking guys like, you know, I'll give you another example. One night, Macho Man just says to Vince McMahon, like, I'm out of here. So he's stuck, like he doesn't have a baby face that night, a big baby face to finish the show. There's 20,000 people. So he brings me in the dressing room, and he brings Sid Vicious in the dressing room with me. And Sid Vicious is a heel. I'm a heel. So he brings us in the dressing room, and he says, guys, he said, Sid, we're going to turn you baby face tonight. He says, I need a big baby face. And Sid says, he started laughing. He said, Vince says, why are you laughing? He says, Vince, I got too much heat. He says, I got too much heat. He says, just wait a minute, and I'll work something out. So I went out in the ring, and I took the mic for about 30 seconds, telling all these hillbillies that there's not one man in this place that was tough enough to come in the ring with me right now. And as a matter of fact, I looked backstage with all you people that were backstage, all those so-called wrestlers, and I don't think there's one man tough enough to come and take the Mountie right here. And, you know, there came Sid Justice out of the curtain, and he was the biggest baby face, more than Hulk Hogan that night when he came out. So when you take my character and my personality, and you look at all the things that I've accomplished, the marathon matches with the Rockers. We were doing 1 hour matches with the Rockers. The most falls win the match. And we went to Madison Square Garden after a whole week of doing 1 hour matches in England, everywhere. And one afternoon, we did a match in England at noon. And we flew to Philadelphia that night, and we did another hour match because there's 6 hours difference. We did 2 1 hour matches in one day.
Wow.
And then 2 days later, we went to the Gardens. And Vince didn't know that, so we had our hour match, the marathon match, and we played a rib on Vince, because at the end we made it where the falls were 6-6, and then Vince was pulling his hair out of his head, and I took the microphone on the floor. I said, "If you think you're gonna get away with a draw, you got it wrong. We want overtime." And we went another 12 minutes, and they beat us, the Rockers, where the Madison Square Gardens just went nuts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So if you look at everything I've accomplished in the business, I think I have a little place there, and one of those stars there in the Hall of Fame, and I think somebody agrees with me. I saw a video not long ago.
Let's fire up the endorsement. I tell you what, if you're getting an endorsement from anybody, it's nothing better than 2-time Hall of Famer. Let's go ahead and play that.
Maniacs, I was watching the WWE the other night, and I was real curious who the first inductee to the 2023 Hall of Fame was. Oh my gosh, it's Rey Mysterio. No one is more deserving. A champion, a great man, a great father, and a great husband. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. For years and years and years, he's carried the torch. But then I thought, you know, who could be next? Who could be just as deserving? And then my first thought was one of the greatest tag teams of all times. The Rougeau brothers, Jacques Rougeau brother and his brother Raymond Rougeau. Those two guys need to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm voting for them. Hopefully they'll be the next inductees in the Hall of Fame, man. Man, I just think it might happen. I got a really good feeling about that one, brother.
Absolutely awesome. And again,
that's
another
amazing. That's amazing, because he's my idol. You know, he's and for him to say something like that, you know, I have no ways of expressing myself to say how I feel when I see that video.
Just legendary with the promos as well as Hulk Hogan, and you know we had Flair mentioning the Wrestling Academy as well. Two guys that were just awesome on the mic, and we would all agree, guys, man, the fabulous Rougeau brothers definitely deserve to be into the WWE Hall of Fame, no doubt about it.
Less
So I'll send the check by the mail, guys. Thank you very much.
Hey, we could use it.
Definitely. Real quick, Mr. Rougeau, I got a question. I'll take you back on it because a friend of ours, Mr. Gennard Soley, which is one of the sons of the great Gordon Soley.
Wow.
There's another one who's not into CAC, which we're trying to help get Gordon into CAC. But you wrestled there in the studio at WTBS Atlanta 7980. And what were your thoughts about that and Gordon?
Gordon Soley, the greatest, one of the greatest, like Lance Russell and many of the greatest from Southern wrestling that were awesome. Gordon Soley had such a flair to him and professionalism. And I remember the day that he announced me at TBS against Ric Flair. I was wrestling Ric Flair, you know, and I was a jobber at the time when I first, it was like in '79. And yeah, Gordon Soley, I remember his glasses. I remember seeing him like it was yesterday, and his brown suit. And but it was awesome. It was a great time because Gordon Soley he had the opportunity. He was lucky at one. I'm sure he deserved this position, but he was lucky, like myself, to be in a territory in Atlanta, Georgia, where I did a lot of territories, Kansas City, like Tennessee, Florida, a lot of them all around. But he was lucky to be in a territory where it was the only one that you would be seen on TV from Boston to Los Angeles on TBS. And all the other territories, it was locally in every state. So when you got on TBS and you were seen like that nationwide, you know, it was what exposure. You know, and that actually, when I was there, you know, and Ole Anderson and I'm thinking Ole Anderson and Ronnie West, the referee, and Dusty Rhodes, guys that loved me as being a jobber. They kept me there for a year and a half of being like an enhancement for the talent. And a year and a half I was seen across the country. And that opened so many doors because I was kind of good looking when I was young there, you know, blonde hair. I had nice drop kicks. I was a good baby face, a nice shape. And so when I left Atlanta, finally, after just the referee didn't beat me, you know, everybody had beat me for a year and a half. And even Judy Garland, Judy, what was her name? I even got beat by a woman, you know. So that was like, it was time for me to go then, you know. And so it was like I started getting calls from different territories. Bob Geigels, Pat O'Connor, different territories. Like they enjoyed my work a lot. So I owe so much to Dusty Rhodes and Ole Anderson, and Gordon Soley was part of my every match, you know, that came out in the Omni in Atlanta or at TBS. So I always loved Gordon Soley. I never was close to him because he wasn't the kind of guy that would come and chummy with you, like, you know. I maybe because I wasn't a big character or something, I didn't do a lot of interviews either. I was a jobber, so, you know, I didn't have the opportunity to work close to him like the guys that were doing interviews with him all the time. But every time he'd see me, like, you know, he'd always say, "How you doing, Jerry?" "Oh yeah, by the way, my name was Jerry Roberts," because I changed my name. I changed my name because I was doing so many jobs. I didn't want to kill the Rougeau name, you know. But I was called Jerry Roberts. As a matter of fact, at the end of my run, they were calling me Jerry Jobber. But I'll have to say that it was great years for me, Atlanta, and Gordon Soley. You know, he definitely deserves to be in what you're calling, I guess it's kind of a Hall of Fame, I guess, huh? Or,
yeah, the Cauliflower Alley Club. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, Cauliflower. Okay, Alley. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's like, you know, that, you know, without Terry Funk, I mean, Gordon Soley's got to be in there, right?
Yeah. Well, I wish him the best, and he certainly deserves. He brings back such great memories for me.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Mr. Rougeau, you bring back great memories for us, just talking some old school wrestling. And for us as wrestling fans growing up, you know, to be able to talk to you and talk a little bit about your career and what you got going on now, it's such a huge honor for us. And we can't thank you enough.
Stop it.
True. It's true. He's
That's
right.
true, man. No, we appreciate it. And here's the thing, too, as you're talking about the Hall of Fame, I'm hoping, too, now that Triple H is kind of running things a bit. I know Vince McMahon's been rumored to have his hand back in things a little bit. But hopefully Triple H will kind of open up that door as he has with this year's induction crew and the guys that are going in, because it's totally deserved that the fabulous Rougeau brothers should be in the Hall of Fame. I think 99.9% of wrestling fans would agree with that. Maybe not 100% or even 100%.
Well, to be honest with you, they had a big survey not long ago in the United States, and there was like 75% of the people thought that we should be in there. So I consider that good. 75% is good. It's not 99%, but 75%, I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Also, real quick, Mr. Rougeau and John can testament to this. We, growing up in Niagara Falls, USA, here close to Niagara Falls, Canada, and Toronto, we used to love and watch NWA's Maple Leaf Wrestling on CHCH Channel 11 out of Toronto with Billy Red Lions and the crew, and we had Mr. Wes Maidment from Manitoba on the show, and we are talking classic Maple Leaf Wrestling as well. We love it.
Billy Red Lions, man, what a classic. Always nice guy, gentleman to the highest point. And reminds me a lot of the guy, I don't know if you guys know a guy called Ken Resnick.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Ken Resnick, very, very nice guy. They remind me both such nice guys. There were some guys in the business that were so nice, just you'd see them and they'd bring a smile to your face. And definitely Billy Red Lions was one of them.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, sir, like I said, we thank you for your time this morning. Anytime you want to come back, there's so much more of your career we'd love to talk about. Anytime you want to come back, update us on the Wrestling Academy and how things are going there. We would absolutely love to have you back on the podcast to discuss.
Thank you, guys. It's been fun talking. I really appreciate the intro, by the way, and I appreciate all the thoughts and the just going over because I always say that people approach me sometimes, when they think that we're superstars, and it's so funny because people approach us, and they say something like, excuse me, Mr. Rougeau, I don't want to bother you, but can I get a picture? And I always think to myself, God, they don't understand what's going on here, because when they come to me and they say if they want a picture with me, they don't know how much it makes me feel good, because to know that they remember me or they want to be seen with me or they want a picture with me. And the day that stops happening, that's the day that I'm going to be miserable. So thank you guys for bringing all the good memories back to me.
Absolutely. Wow. You always have fans in us that'll always, if we ever see you in public, we're asking for that picture, no doubt about it. And maybe even a shock stick for Chris, too. Give him one of the
That's the one thing I remember I was going to bring up, though, that big shock stick you got Sergeant Slaughter during Slaughter versus Flair match, 1982.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
sorry.
That was my idea. The Mountie was Vince's idea, but I asked him when I came in, I said, I need to bring this shock stick in with me. He says, what do you mean a shock stick? I said, don't worry. I said, I'll show you when I get there. But I said, Eddie the Brain Creechman, a great manager of all times in Quebec, and he used to manage Abdullah. He had a shock stick like that when I was a young kid, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And I was in the dressing room and he used to walk around with that shock stick. And I used to, excuse my language, but I used to shit in my pants, every time he'd come by with the shock stick. And I said to myself, if I was doing that, then other people will do that too, So I believed in that gimmick because I was so afraid, and it's so funny because a lot of the boys, like especially the Bulldogs, when they were playing all those ribs, they were going in getting my shock stick, and I remember them putting Virgil against the wall in Europe, man, and he turned white, and it was like, but it was like it was funny and wasn't funny, but anyway, all this to say that the shock stick was believable.
Yes.
And it was a great gimmick, and a really quick thing before I leave you guys, because I gotta go. But I want to tell you this story. The first day I came in the WWF with the shock stick as the Mountie, one of my first matches against Coco Beware, and I hadn't been there for a year and a half in WWF. I've been gone away from the Fabulous Rougeau brothers till I came back. And I get in this match at Coco Beware, and on my shock stick, I got 2 buttons. I got one in the back here, which is the emergency button on and off. And then I got the one here, the on and off, and so when I go in the ring, I'd go like, that'd be on and off. But this one had to be lit too in the back there,
Right.
So long story short, I get a 20-minute match with Coco Beware. And we're soaking wet at the end. Like, we had a hell of a match. And then I take my shock stick, and don't ask me what the hell I did, but I must have flipped the button on the back on. So I start zapping him. And he starts shaking in the ring. And I'm going like to my own brain there in my own head. I'm saying like, wow, Coco, you're doing a hell of a job selling this thing. This is good, And then the next thing is like, I start smelling pig, like the smell of pig when you burn skin, and then the smell, and I'm going like, I say to myself, God damn, Vince, he sure is good with the special effects. Like, you know, and because he had the sound special effect on TV that he put in.
Right.
And I thought he added that thing, the smell too, like, you know, and next thing you know, so I got back in the dressing room and I'm waiting behind the curtains for Coco to come out to give him the biggest hug. And he wanted to kick my butt, man. He came through that curtain and he said, yes. And he was cussing me out, and I was saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. And up to this day, when we meet Coco and we speak, I spoke to him again last week. We always start the conversation, you know, like, how you feeling, my man? How you feeling? You feeling good? You know, and we laugh about it today, you know. But and it was so funny.
Frankie didn't come after you.
But it was so funny because, yeah, really, it's a lucky you still have his feathers. But you know, but it was like it was so funny. It's like, this is not funny because he's the first guy I shock, and then he comes, he wants to beat me up, and then you see all the other guys that are in the dressing room looking at that happen, and they're saying, I'm probably next. You know, and it was so bad for my gimmick. It was like no one wanted to do it after. Like, I'm not thinking. And I said, no. And then I had to explain to everybody, no, I messed up, but I won't with you. I promise I won't mess it up. I won't mess it up. But anyway, hey, the guys, take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Mr. Rougeau. Thank you.
You make sure you send me this link there so I could share it on my social medias because I really enjoyed you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, our show goes around the country, around the world, and we're on Twitter and YouTube and everything. So we definitely will share it, sir.
Remember, we have something in common, all 5 of us. We're all American boys.
All American boys. Sing it, gentlemen.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Thank you, sir.
No, that's right. We're at the dirty end of the horse. We're at the ass end of the horse.
That was
down
good.
Here in the USA, man. That was great stuff. And like I said, man, we with a wrestling legend like Mr. Jacques Rougeau, we just got started with some of the wrestling stories. We could go, 5-6 hours just talking about some of the stories he must have. I mean, just awesome stuff. Again, thank you to Mr. Jacques Rougeau for hanging out with us and talking some old school wrestling and talking about that wrestling academy too. We'll definitely on the Falls Count Anywhere Facebook page, we'll keep that stuff updated and get that information out to anybody that, hey, if you want to get in the ring and get trained by one of the best ever and learn the ropes, if you will, that's one of the routes to take there at the that Canadian Wrestling Academy there. So very, very cool stuff, gentlemen.
Definitely. Well, guys, hang on that thought, Charlie. I know we're coming to an end here, but of course would be a long show, and we greatly appreciate his time, and we knew it would be good today with Mr. Jacques Rougeau. We'd like to thank our fans again on all of our platforms, our home Facebook here, of course. John on our Twitter at Count Anywhere is growing. I understand our YouTube is up to 30. Trying to get 100 up to YouTube, but we got 35 so far on our Friends with the Z Media Network, and not just this show, but all of our shows with John. And John, what else the fans can do for us?
Right now in the comment section, you'll see you can send us stars for $1.99. You send us 100 stars. Those stars, first off, getting the stars, accumulating them themselves gives us more opportunity on Facebook. Like they have special advertising, things like that. It also helps us along the way. That dollar goes right back into the shows, helps us with all of that stuff, because things do cost, I guess, to make it happen. And we love doing it. And 99 cents, 100 stars is great. And I appreciate all of you because we've had a lot of people do it already.
Yes, I thank them all as well.
Absolutely, and thanks to the recent feedback we got when we posted last night with a picture of the Mountie there. We got a little bit of feedback from some of our listeners and watchers. We thank you as well for just checking us out for a few minutes, and hopefully you're enjoying these interviews as much as we are. It's great stuff. So guys, next week we look forward to our WrestleMania preview. We are going to talk some WrestleMania. Got a huge 2-night event going down in Los Angeles as WrestleMania goes Hollywood. Totally looking forward to that WrestleMania weekend and what that's
Mr. Terry Sullivan next week.
I was going to say Mr. Terry Sullivan, one of our former guests, is going to be rejoining us to talk WrestleMania as we just finalized last night. Rey Mysterio, the Hall of Famer, recently announced Hall of Famer, will be taking on his son Dominic. And when you take a step back from that, just the storyline and all that goes with it, with the sports entertainment aspect of it. How cool has it got to be for Rey Mysterio as he's announced into the Hall of Fame, as he's wrapping up his career, to be able to wrestle his son at WrestleMania and kind of show him, what a big event WrestleMania can be. And Dominic's perspective has got to be unbelievable as well, as to be able to do that with his dad. Storyline aside, he's got to be loving the fact that he gets to have a WrestleMania match with his dad. Totally looking forward to that. One of the legends of the ring there, Rey Mysterio, with a huge match. Edge, of course, in a Hell in a Cell match, another WWE Hall of Famer, going to be taking on the Demon Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell. So lots of good stuff to talk about for next week. And, of course, the big title match with Cody Rhodes we're going to get into as well. So, guys, like I said, as we thaw out here, we're in the spring season. Oh, we do have a public announcement, correct, John?
Sure.
Before we wrap up here, and then we want to.
Yep. I'm going to remind everyone about mental health. 844-794-3812. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're there for you. They'll talk to you for I don't care. They'll talk to you all night, all day long if you need. They sit there. They're professional people waiting for you. Remember all the stuff, anxieties, depression. You don't feel like getting up out of bed. There's a lot of times all of us go through it. The weather's gloomy. That even makes you depressed. Give them a call, 844-794-3812. They're standing by waiting for you. Please, before you think of doing anything you would think of doing, give them a call.
Awesome. Thanks for that message, John. And gentlemen, thank you for another great show here, Falls Count Anywhere podcast. And as we head to the final exit and the final road to WrestleMania, we'll see you guys next week.
And we have a lot of guests to come, so definitely stay tuned each and every week here.
Absolutely. Stay with us.